Welcome everybody to PhotoApps.Expert live training. This is session 1300. No, that doesn't mean we've done 1300 of these. Don't get too excited. This is the start of a new series, a new course on Lightroom CC, the all new, relatively new, few weeks old now, Lightroom update from Adobe, and it is a bit of a doozy. So for anybody who's watching this for the first time, has never been to this channel, never seen one of these shows before, was wondering what the heck you're watching, here's the deal. Live training is a live, as in watch it live, watch it streaming live training that I do on a variety of software, on the desktop, on mobile, kind of all over the place. All photography related one way or another. And the first session, anything called an overview session with a 0 in the name, like 1300 as this one is a free session. So you get to watch this for free. After this though, however, then you got to pay. You see, what happens is when it's live, it is free. It's always free when it's live. If you can watch it free, if you can watch it free, you can watch it live. If you can watch it live, you can watch it free, and that's awesome, and that's super cool with that. Be part of the conversation. You get to participate in the chat, which is fantastic. But if you can't see it live, or you just want to have it for archival purposes later, then you head over to PhotoApps.Expert, and you can find it there. If you hit PhotoApps.Expert/live or click on the live button, you'll find the archives of all of these, and these go back many, many years. But this first one, they always say the first one's free, right? This one is here to whet your appetite and see what kind of things we're going to be doing. So this is the Lightroom CC overview, which means we're going to take a kind of a high-level look at the new Lightroom CC. We'll talk a little bit about what's missing from Classic, what the old Lightroom CC now called Classic. We'll talk a little bit about it, but not really. That's kind of a separate conversation. This is really just an overview of what Classic is, what Lightroom CC is, and we are going to do a little bit of comparison to mobile, just because it really is, the whole CC thing is really a whole mobile-centric package, and so I do want to do a little bit of comparison, especially since there is not feature parity between the two apps. So we're going to take a look at a couple of things there. Again, high-level overview on the subsequent videos that we will get into after this, starting on Thursday of this week, because we're a little behind schedule. So starting on Thursday, we'll be going into a deeper dive on individual specific features and trying to cover all the nitty-gritty on there. So that's how that goes. If you are watching live right now, please do participate in the conversation. There is a chat room, depending on where you're watching it. It could be here, it could be there, it could be somewhere else. Anyway, if you type in @PhotoJoseph in front of your chat, I'll get to see it on my screen. It will look something like this, and we'll see that there, and I get to see that, and I can see your questions, which is obviously kind of wonderful and awesome. And then I can try and answer your questions as we go. So just once again, hello to everybody who's watching live. Jake, Keiki Bronson, and everybody's here. This is just awesome. Jake says, I'm your Lightroom dealer/hookup. There you go, man. First one's free. You know how it is. All right, so let us begin, shall we? We're going to start with on the desktop because that's what this is really all about. And again, we're going to take a little bit of a look at mobile later on, but we're just going to do a quick little overview here. So let's just get into straight up Lightroom CC. Hello, switch, there it is. So the interface is going to feel familiar and yet different all at once. Now, one of the things that's interesting, I wasn't sure when I first launched it what I was going to see. What's the first thing I'm going to see when I jump over to, when I first install and launch Lightroom CC? It turns out what you see is whatever in Lightroom regular you had designated as a shared share with cloud, sync to cloud album. So if you were working in regular Lightroom and you have hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of photos and albums and so on in there, and you would click that little syncy button on there, a little kind of double-headed arrow, so that you could see those pictures on your mobile device, those are the ones that are now they're already in Adobe Cloud and will now show up inside of Lightroom CC. So that's how that works. So anything that you had chose to sync on your desktop machine and or were already seeing on your mobile device, whether that's an Android, iOS, iPad, iPhone, whatever, all of those things that you would see is what you're going to see in here, which is an interesting point to look at. So you've already started a Lightroom Cloud library. Whether you realized it or not, had you synced between your devices, that's already there. So you fire it up and you go, oh, look at that. So I'm not starting from scratch, which is kind of cool. So that's all what's in here. So that's our starting point. And I have in here, I don't have much in my Creative Cloud thing. I've got my trip to Sweden that I was on earlier this year is in here, and it looks like a client job that I did. And the only reason this is synced onto here is because I wanted to edit on my iPad. And that's about it. So we're going to start by importing new pictures because this is, again, we're starting with the desktop workflow. You have a card to insert, to import pictures from. Actually don't have a card, or you can import from the desktop, same, but different, and just see what that experience is. So I click on yonder plus up here in the top left. That's where the import is. Just plus, add. Think of it like add. It's not even importing, it's adding. And I have on the desktop a series of very old photos that we're going to import. Review for import. So we click on this, and this brings us into the review window. So we're able to see in here thumbnails of all the pictures, a little bit of metadata. You can hover over one and see a little bit more about it. These pictures are 7 years old. There's some old pictures in here. And sometimes it's hard finding new content. Sometimes you dig into the archives. If I don't want to import something, obviously I can just deselect it there. And they can choose to add it to an album. This is kind of nice, right? This is not something necessarily new, but this is a really important differentiation between how Lightroom Classic, now called Classic, formerly Lightroom, now called Classic, works versus Lightroom CC. Let's actually talk about this for a moment. We'll go into this in more detail when I get into an in-depth importing and file management video, which might be the first one on Thursday. I haven't actually decided yet. Anyway, when you import it into Lightroom Old, now called Lightroom Classic, you chose where to put those pictures on your hard drive, right? That was something you had to decide. And then if you wanted to, you could choose to put them into an album collection inside of Lightroom as well. And these could be it could be named the same thing, it could be totally different things. But you did have to choose where on your hard drive you're putting them. Now, that first step is gone. We don't choose where on the hard drive to go. And we'll take a look in the settings later. You have a little bit of control over it, but basically, this is invisible to you. Forget about it. You don't need to know. The pictures are going somewhere, doesn't matter. If you want to have them organized inside of Lightroom in something other than the automatic organization, which we'll take a look at here in a moment, if you want to have your own custom album called My Import, My Trip To, or such and such job number, or whatever it might be, you can do that at this point. So that's great. Again, you could do that before, but the problem was then you had this disconnection between where they were in the Finder and where they were in your collections. Two totally separate things. That separation is gone, to which I actually say good riddance. And I know that a lot of people are gonna go, dude, this sucks. I really wanna have total control, and that's awesome. You kind of, sort of can still do, sort of, but this is a simpler workflow. And I get into a whole philosophical thing here, but if you go back to the days of Aperture, and then of course which evolved into Photos, that part of where you store the pictures largely can be completely invisible as long as you can access your pictures from within the library. Now I know there's people are gonna say, but I wanna be able to find my pictures in the Finder as well. I don't wanna have the app taking control over everything that I'm doing, and that is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. This is just a simpler, easier approach, and you can still do that if you take control over where they go. And we'll look at that. Anyway, point is, on import, you don't got to choose anything. You just kind of hit it and go. But you'll notice a few other things that are missing in here. But let's go ahead and create one. I'm going to say new, and we're going to call this Joshua Tree. Usually I would put, in my normal naming format, I would do this. I would do YMD, year, month, day, and that, by the way, is from Text Expander, a little utility that I've been using for decades, it seems, that automatically expands out. That was today's current year, month, day. This obviously was not then. It was 7 years ago. We're just going to pretend. We're not going to even put a date. We'll just put Joshua Tree. Create. It's going to add that to the album Joshua Tree. I can select all or select none, and that's basically it. What's missing here? Well, there's that kind of slightly important whole metadata thing. You know, copyright. That's gone. Now, that's not to say it's not going to come. I think this is an important thing to point out. The way Adobe has branded this, they have said that this is the starting point. This is why there is still Lightroom Classic available. That has all the features that you've always loved and wanted. Lightroom CC does not have all those features. Those features will come. Now, they haven't made any promises to exactly what features or timing or any of that, except to say they will continue to evolve. And the expectation is that eventually Lightroom CC will have all the features that Lightroom Classic has, and then Lightroom Classic will be kicked out the door, and everything will be Lightroom CC. That is the expectation. Obviously, nobody really knows except those in Adobe, but that's kind of the expectation. So right now, you don't have any kind of metadata import, metadata application and import, which if metadata is a critical part of your workflow, right there you're going, well, okay, I guess I'm out. I can't really use this right now. Although, if you really wanted to get super geeky techie about it, what you could do is add your metadata on import using a third-party utility, using something like, using some third-party, I'm totally spacing on the name. Or, as you're going to see, you can apply import once you're in, apply metadata once you're in the app, but not having that on import is that's kind of a big deal for a lot of people. But you can apply it once it's in. So you got options. All right, let's get back to it. So that's it. We're going to choose on add 22 photos. Then it's going to add these 22 photos to my library. And you see up here, it says importing, and boom, there they are, they're in. Now, what's happening to these pictures right now? Where are these pictures going? If you go up here in the top right, you'll see there's a little syncing cloud dealio. It's a little cloud icon. It's got a little spinner on it right now. If I click on that, it tells me what is happening. It is currently syncing 22 photos. I can pause that if I want to. And it tells me how much is being used. I'm using 20 gigs out of my terabyte that I've got available on Adobe Creative Cloud. So, I guess I got some space to go here. And I can, it says connect to your device. All these do, incidentally, if you click on these, it just takes you to a page to download. It's just Lightroom iOS is going to take you to the iOS web store. No big deal there. But if you look under here next to the syncing, if we click on this, this gives us our preferences, and it also shows us where things are going. So let's see here. You have 3 tabs: account, local storage, and general account. This allows you to get into your Adobe Creative Cloud account and just tells you your status, how much is backed up, how much space you have. Local storage, we go here next. Local storage. Part of the whole idea here is, again, that you don't have to worry about where your pictures go or where they're even stored afterwards, how much disk space they're taking, and so on. Because like Photos, if you're a Photos user on the Mac, that whole concept is managed for you. And oh boy, that is not good. All right, sorry about the delay there, folks. We had a little glitch in the stream in the Matrix, but things do seem to be back right now. Jake is blaming YouTube TV. I blame everything YouTube at this point because who knows? Anyway, so where were we? We're talking about storage. With storage, with Lightroom CC, you don't have to worry about the capacity, how much space you're taking up on your local hard drive. You can set, with this dial here, you can set it, let's just go full screen here again. You can set whether, how much of your total disk space is going to be made available to Lightroom. And by default, it's set to 25%. You can change this to whatever you want. So if you take this up all the way, obviously that would be a bad idea. But if you take that up all the way, then it will fill up your hard drive with photos. Once it runs out of photos, or once it runs out of this 25% or whatever you set it to, it is going to start offloading things to the cloud. Now, we don't know, at least this might be public, but I haven't seen it if it is, what goes into the decision being made on whether it is kept locally or pushed up to the cloud, and well, everything's pushed up to the cloud, but kept locally or not. Presumably, at minimum, by date. Your oldest photos are the first ones to go, but hopefully it's a little bit smarter than that. It's not just date, but it's also pictures you've touched. So if I've been playing around in an album that is 3 years old, that will stick around for a little bit longer than something that's 6 months old that I haven't touched since 6 months. So we'll see how that works. But anyway, point is, in here, you can choose how much disk space you want allocated to storage of local files. And I just realized that if I keep going at this pace, we're going to be here for 3 hours. So I'm going to move it along a little bit and keep this a little bit more of an overview. All right, back to it. So there's that. And then you can choose here. This is the really big important one. Do you want to store all your originals currently in the current location? So I can say store a copy of all originals locally. And that means that my originals will be here as well as in the cloud. And this is an important thing for a lot of people. You might want to have a system that's kind of your master system that keeps all of your pictures locally. This could be a really big, important deal for you. So if it is, then that's something that you should do. But in theory, if you trust in the machine that is Adobe, once your pictures are on their cloud, you shouldn't have to worry about it. And this is, let's be fair, while obviously, anything can happen to anybody, odds are that Adobe's cloud networking and backup and redundancy strategy is a little better than yours and mine. That's just, we're just out on a limb here, but I'm just saying they've probably got a little bit higher level of backup security, redundancy, and so on than you or I do in our home studios and so on. So it's just something to consider. I think there's obviously nothing wrong with keeping a local file on your local hard drive, assuming you get the space for it. But if you, if you're not trusting Adobe's copy of it, then I don't know what to say. But I think it's a pretty reasonable thing to expect that once it's up there, it's pretty safe. So hopefully that's it. Anyway. That's a philosophical discussion, I suppose. You can also change the location here. Where do you want these things stored? So if you don't want them stored in its own default location, you can change that here as well, presumably to put this on an external hard drive. Something I do not know yet, I haven't gotten into this enough yet, we'll dig into this later, is can you span multiple drives? If I've got 20 terabytes of photos, and I've got a series of 5 terabyte drives, and I need to span those, then I need to span those. So don't yet know how that affects this. That's something we'll get into another day. And then under general settings, just a few things: language, text size. I set mine to large just to make it a little bit easier to see on screen here. Panel tracks, I haven't, honestly, automatic versus manual. Automatic is the default. That's these things on the side when they pop out. I just left it on automatic because it just seems like a good idea. And then the things like you can prevent the system from sleeping and use your graphics processor, which of course you want to do. So we'll just leave that done. Okay, so we're going to cancel out of this. We don't actually change any settings in case I screwed anything up there. Incidentally, oh, you know what I just realized? What was probably the problem? This took over my, hogged up my amount of bandwidth. I'll bet that's what it was. I'm in the middle of a stream. I imported, what did I import? Let's see here. How big was this? I imported half a gig, 585 megabytes worth of photos, and Lightroom went, time to upload, and push those up. That's why our stream went through the floor. Wow. Okay, well, interesting. That's something I'm not gonna want, that's a mistake I'm not gonna wanna make anytime soon. Okay, anyway, so there's that. All right, so now we're back into this. We're looking at our pictures in here. They are now safely up in the cloud. And over here on the left-hand side, remember the top one was the little plus to add photos or import. Underneath that, you see this thing called My Photos P. This is basically your library, your browser. Open this up and you see the organization that you have. And you have a few different things. Let me close those out and let's just start with the albums. And under albums, you see the albums that I've created previously, and of course there's Joshua Tree, the one that we were just looking at. You can choose to view these with or without a little thumbnail. The nice advantage of going without a thumbnail is you get a little bit more space for your longer file names in there, but that's it. It doesn't seem like, I've been trying to make this bigger and I can't seem to do it. I guess I can't change the size of this, which is a bit of a drag, because I tend to have long file names, long project names, so it's a little bit annoying to see that shortened there. If I hover over it for long enough, it will pop up and show me the whole thing, but even there, it's a little bit annoying, but it is what it is. To the right of that, you have a little plus, create album or create folder. You can also just right-click on this blank space here, create album, create folder. So if you want to create a new album or create a new folder, you can do that. This is a big difference right here in the way things used to be. Remember back in the days of Lightroom Classic, like it's last decade or something, in original Lightroom, you had collections and you had collection sets. A collection set is a collection of collections. Some of the nomenclature here, you really got to wonder. This is simpler and makes more sense. An album is an album of photos, and a folder is a folder that you drop albums into. I'm pretty sure you can't put a picture into a folder that would make sense. It's the pictures hold, the folders hold your albums. You can have multiple albums. Can you put a folder in a folder? Actually, I haven't tried this. Create a folder. Okay, let's do this. So let's create a folder, and we're going to call this top folder. And if I click on that, right-click on that, rename, create folder, subfolder. Yeah, subfolder, inside folder, top folder. Look at that. So I can do that. I hadn't actually tried that yet. So that's great. So I can get into a much more granular organization in here, which is really, really nice. I like that. I'm glad to see that in there. Okay, let's go back to my Joshua Tree pictures that I just imported. So there's those. Up at the top, you have an all photos view that just shows you all the photos. That's where we started. You have a recently added, and if you click on that, it opens up to show you, hey, look, 13 minutes ago, I added these 22 pictures. Back on October 26th at 7 a.m., I imported that picture, and so on and so on. Since I haven't really been importing things into here directly, we're not seeing much of a history here. But then underneath this, I have by date, and I like this quite a bit. I can see all of my pictures based off of their date. Now, this doesn't give me any more information than the date, so I don't know what it is until I click on it, or what's in there until I click on it. But if I'm looking for something based off of when I shot it, I can find it in here, which is pretty cool. So we do like that. That's a nice feature to have in there. Okay, so there's the basic organization. We'll get into all that in more detail in a future show. On the right-hand side, you have all the adjustments. We're going to come to that later. Up at the top, you have your search. Let me go back to the all photos view for this, because this is where Lightroom gets really, really interesting. This is the whole, what are they calling it? Not smart searching. Yeah, I forget what they call it. But anyway, basically an AI. I have not keyworded I haven't keyworded photos in like years. It's one of those things you go, oh, I should really keyword my pictures, makes it easier to find, and just never, ever did it. Well, now you don't have to worry about it, because the algorithm will go in there and analyze your photos for their content and allow you to search by that. Pretty cool. If you're an Apple Photos user, this is a similar feature to Photos, which incidentally, if you're an Apple Photos user and you're going, oh, this is kind of cool, which is better? I will be doing a comprehensive comparison of Photos, which is now its third version in High Sierra, to Lightroom CC. I will do that. Not today, but I will. Anyway, so let's go back and watch how cool this is. I'm going to go to search all photos. I'm going to type in bear. And it searches and look at all them pictures of bears that I got. Look at that. It just finds. Not a single one of these photos is not of a bear. It's not to say that there's not bear pictures that were missed, but not a single one of these is not of a bear. Let's go to giraffe. Type in giraffe. I found some giraffe pictures. Let's do baby. And look at these baby pictures. Those are my friend's little baby. Let's type in food. Type in food, and ooh, look at that. Food pictures. You gotta admit, that's pretty darn cool in there. Let's try, I don't know, let's do sunrise. Okay, so some sunrise pictures. Nice, nice. Now here's an interesting point. See this? This one? That's not sunrise. That is sunset. Sunset is not the same as sunrise. It looks kind of similar, and when I first was playing with this before today's show, I thought, maybe my camera was set wrong, right? Because that was in Sweden. Maybe I hadn't set the time zone on my camera properly, but I did. See, watch. If I go into here and I click on the little info down in the top bottom right corner, that picture is, where's the date? I saw it, here it is. Picture date is showing at 7:51 in the PM. So that is definitely an evening shot. That is not a sunrise. However, this picture here is shot very early in the morning at 5:54 a.m. We zoom into that, 5:54 a.m. and very clearly is not a sunrise photo. So it seems to be doing a combination of looking for things that look like a sunrise, i.e. the sun is in them, and also looking at time of day. It wasn't sure whether this was sunrise or sunset, so I guess it played it safe. Now if I go in here and I change this to sunset, those same photos are going to be there. So the same photos are there. So it's interesting, like this is sunrise, not sunset. So there seems to be some combination of analyzing the photo and looking at the timestamp and presumably any location metadata that's in there as well, but not all of it. Curious. Onward. Let's do another search. Let's do this. I'm going to search for location. I'm going to type in Sweden. And this is going to find, it is searching, it's thinking. It shouldn't take this long to think. Come on, think faster. There it goes. It is finding pictures that were taken in Sweden. However, it's missing a lot of them. Okay, so what is in here? If I scroll through these, what I will quickly discover is that the pictures that it is showing me are pictures that were shot on my drone, which was, of course, attached to the phone, had GPS, had all the metadata. It's all there, so it has location data. And the pictures shot on my iPhone, which, of course, also have location data. None of the pictures shot on my regular camera are showing up here. Excuse me. Okay, so why not? Remember, on import, I couldn't do any metadata. I mean, I didn't import these just now anyway, but even if I had, I couldn't add the metadata, so it doesn't know where those are. But there's hope. So if I look over here on the right, now we're looking at Sweden pictures. We are looking at a bunch of shots from iPhone or from drone or whatever. This is cool. This is a stitch from a drone shot. Pretty cool, right? If you look, well, interesting. That one actually doesn't say country Sweden. Curious. Let's go for an iPhone picture because I know some of these do. Let's see. That's obviously drone. So it must have the GPS coordinates in there, but it has not reverse geotag or whatever you call that. Oh no, that's interesting though, because this one it has. That is obviously drone, and that one says Sweden. There's the metadata. Maybe I'm lying. Maybe this one was not shot with a drone. Okay, that could be the problem. All right, anyway, back to the drone shots. It says country Sweden right here. You can see that over here in the middle of the screen here. It says country Sweden. However, if I now reset this and let me go open up my albums, let me go to my manually created Sweden collection, which is right here, 622 photos all shot in Sweden. And I select all of these and I go back to the little info guy here. You'll see now it says country is mixed. And that's a mix of Sweden and nothing. I went through it, not super carefully, but I went through it at the beginning of the trip and the end of the trip. This is all Sweden. None of it was in another country. We went out on the boat on the on the things where the water and the little islands, and we might have gotten close to another country's border at that point, so there might be a picture that shows up but I don't think so. doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say country for all of these is, I'm going to type in Sweden and hit return. And it says 622 photos will be affected. Are you sure you want to do this? And I can't. I'm not actually going to do it because I'm not ready for that yet. But you can do that, which is really, really cool. So there's that. That is kind of neat. Now, one of the things that I'm really bummed that I don't have in here is a list view. Because if I had a list view, I could look at all my Sweden photos, set up a column that showed the country, and then sort by that column and see if there's anything that doesn't match. And I don't have that feature, but yeah, maybe it'll come. Maybe it'll come one day. Okay, so there's a little bit of metadata. So you see you have all this metadata in here. It also shows you sync status. We deselect pictures, grab one. You see it says sync status on here, what we're looking at. The original is backed up. All very, very good, useful information to have. And I can, on an individual basis, say, hey, store this picture locally. Very useful if, let's say, you are going to be getting on an airplane and you know that you want to edit a job on the flight, whether it's you're coming back from your trip, you want to edit your shots from your trip, or whether you are, whatever, you've got a client job to deliver, you want to edit those pictures on the plane, where obviously you're not going to have internet access, or where you're going somewhere where you're going to have slow access, whatever. You can select photos and say, force it to store these locally. That's huge. Huge, 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 huge. Did I say it was huge? This is a really big deal. I am super appreciative of this. This is definitely a pro workflow nod as opposed to Photos on the Mac, which doesn't do that. And as many regular viewers know, when I came back from Sweden, I didn't have access to my photos because they'd all gone up to the cloud and poof, and they were gone because I was actually using Photos when I was, anyway, whole other story. So back to this. You have that capability in there. Very, very nice. All right, so these are the pictures from my Sweden trip, and there's metadata on them, and we'll dive into the metadata in more length at another time. Keywords in here, by the way, let me go back into this. Let's go back to my all photos view. And keyboard shortcuts, by the way, are different, and I haven't learned them all, which is kind of annoying. But anyway, let me search for my bear photos. I click on this, and down here on the bottom right, I have this little keyword icon, right? So if I open this up, I can add a keyword manually, but it doesn't show the keywords that it has added. And I did a little test because I didn't know it was going to happen, but now I do, where I exported this picture, one of these pictures. So obviously the system knows it's a bear. So I exported it. I was hoping that the bear keyword would get included, and it doesn't. So I don't know if there's a way, if there is, I haven't found it yet, to see what keywords Lightroom has applied to this. That I think would be really, really cool. But I haven't found that. Maybe if it's there, somebody let me know, but I don't think it is. Trevor, the Cure's holding a pop. It was not a beer. Anyway, so let's go back into this. So there's your keyword stuff, right? So again, we'll get into all that stuff in a little bit more depth later. But right now, let's take a quick look at our adjustments that we have. Let's bring up the photos that I just imported. Let's go to Joshua Tree here and open up a picture like this. And let's say I want to do some work on it. So what controls do I have? Over here on the right-hand side, let me zoom in this a little bit. You'll see if I kind of hover over these, you'll see you have your basic editing, cropping and rotating, healing and brushing, linear gradients, and radial gradients. Now, we are not going to go into each one of these at length right now because that is what future shows will be for, but I want to show you some of the basics in here. You've got your essential light controls, color controls, or going to black and white if you want to do that sort of thing. You have effects, clarity, dehaze, and vignetting, detail, sharpening, and so on. And incidentally, as you hover your mouse over the name of each one of these tools, it pops up a little tooltip explaining what it is, which is kind of nice. Optics, remove chromatic aberration and lens correction adding. And then this actually surprised me that this was here. You have geometry controls. So I can go in here. Let's actually disable that. Let's go to the easier view first. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Let me pick a different picture. Let's do, that works. It's kind of off-kilter photo there. If I go into geometry, let's zoom into that a little bit here. You'll see that I have upright controls. It's currently set to off. I can do guided, auto, level, vertical, or full. Or I can go, well, if I go into guided, then it's going to bring up the thing so I can drag lines across the image. Or if I enable this guy, then I get a lot more options in here, which this is notable for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is not in the mobile version. Big difference, which we're going to see in a moment because I'm going to do a little magic between the two devices. Is a bummer that it's not there, but the things that you do on one device do show up on the other, even if the interface isn't there to control it. So that's cool. But anyway, this is notable because it's kind of an important feature for a lot of people, and there's a particular market that I think it's very interesting for, and that is real estate. So I have a client who I'm working with who is a a realtor, and I'm helping them up their game on their photography and video production that they're doing, and I was recommending to them what software they should use. And through the process of this discussion, this came out, and I'm like, ooh, this might actually be a better solution for you, but if it doesn't have the geometric corrections, forget about it. It ain't no good to you because you need that. It's there, which is great. There's still a lot of advantages, of course, to the full-size Lightroom now called Classic, but the fact that you have this in here is, I think, a beautiful thing. So if we go in here and we want to play with one of these settings, and let me turn off the advanced stuff, let's just go in here and say geometry vertical. It is going to straighten out the doorway in that photo. And I can go up to the top here and I can go light auto, do a little light correction there, auto toning, maybe I want to make it a little bit crunchier. And then I go, okay, this is looking pretty good here. Maybe take up the clarity a little bit. Now what I really want to do is get into the curves. Curves aren't here. This is one of those I'm going, wait, what? Because it's on mobile. I don't know why it's not there. You gotta assume this is like right around the corner, but that was a big miss for me that there's no curves in here. Go figure. All right, let's take a quick look at the other tools that are in here. We're gonna save the diving into those obviously for another show, but let me take a quick look at those, and then we're gonna do something cool to two devices, and then we're gonna call that a sign off for the overview. Oh, actually I haven't gone through the bottom of the interface yet. Okay, right-hand side, bottom, compare, and we're done. Back to it. Alrighty, so what else do we have in the controls here? Lighting, color, detail, geometry, went through that. Under cropping, you've got your standard cropping. You can choose aspect ratios and so on. Rotation and straightening if you need to do a little manual straightening of your image there. Incidentally, the reset is down here under the three dots. Let me just revert that to original and get that back to normal. Healing, you have some basic healing tools in here. If I click on this, click on, okay, got it. I don't need your help. You have a cloning and a healing tool in there. Very helpful to know, so you've got that options. And then brushing in here. So you can brush in your effects. It's obviously I haven't clicked on these yet on this system because it keeps popping up this little help. Paint over the area you would like to adjust. You can see you can change your brush size, feathering, all that good stuff in here, and then your basic controls that you can do via brush, or you can do linear gradients or radial gradients as well, which again is, I think, a great thing to have in here. This is one of those that if it wasn't there, I'd be going, well, less usable to me. I mean, here's why. I personally believe, I have found that using the linear and radial gradients, for me, I can do the vast majority of my retouching, dodging, and burning type work on a photo with those. I love it. It's so fast. It's so easy. I way prefer that to brushing. Totally dig it. Been doing these for years now. Love it. It's one of those things that back in the Aperture days we were all begging for. We never got. It was one of the main things that when I did switch over to Lightroom, I was like, yes, finally, at least I get these features. So there's that. So I'm glad to see that in here. And then those three dots again. You've got a copy settings. You can copy and paste settings to multiple images. You can toggle to your original, revert to original. You can share your histogram if you want to pop that guy up. There we go. Leave that guy up at the top. It belongs there. And you have a simple edit in Photoshop. Because remember that if you are subscribing to the cloud, to the membership, well, you have to, don't you? You don't have any choice. You can get Photoshop with it. $10 a month, you get Photoshop the too. So that's pretty good. Okay, back on the tour, down on the bottom of the screen, we have, let's go back to the grid view. I'm going to hit G to go back to the grid view. Oh, look, those little things popped away. Maybe that's what that auto is all about. You have two different grid views. You have a, I don't know what you would call it, kind of formed wrapping view like you see here, and then you have the straight up, more squared off square grid. I guess that's what it's called, square grid view. See a little bit more information on there. You can see your ratings and flaggings and so on. So if I rate an image, flag an image and so on, those show up in there as well. You can do basic things like little rotating, oh, no, not rotating, sorry, syncing, I lied to you. You can see your sync status on an image in there and so on. So that's kind of useful to see in there. But I kind of like, this toggles between these two with the G key. I like this photo grid view. I think that's kind of nice. And then you've got the full size view. You click on that and now you're seeing, it's called the detail view. You're seeing your photo with your little thumbnails underneath. Next to that, you've got your sorting. So sort by capture date, import date, modify date, star rating, or reverse that order. Very helpful. You have the ability to flag, unflag, or pick or unpick, I suppose it's called here. And then you have your star ratings across the bottom. I think this picture deserves 4 stars. It's beautiful. And you have that. And then your zoom. Fit, fill, look at it 1:1, hide the film strip down at the bottom or not, and show a before and after. Show original. It shows your original without any adjustments. Let's see. Let me make sure that I'm not lying to you. Is it a before and after? Is it a split? Or is it, it's just a before and after. It's not a split. Okay. So there's a before and after view right there. Excellent. Let's reset this picture. Shift R to reset and Z. See, okay, this is already like these changing shortcuts are killing me. Z is zoom. But apparently on Lightroom CC, Z is pick. Flag pick, F-L-A-G, pick, P-I-C. There's no Z in there. Where'd you get Z, guys? Z for zoom. We're used to that. Why would you take this away? You can't have everything. Okay. Let's go back to fit. And actually, what is the keyboard shortcut for fit and fill? Is there one? This is severely lacking in keyboard shortcuts, I will say. Nope, no keyboard shortcut. If I go up here and I go fit, see, I don't even see it in there. Zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, view. So there's got to be hidden keyboard shortcuts for things like that. Command 1, nope. Command 0, nope. It's doing something. I don't even know what it's doing right now. Oh, Command 0 is hiding the histogram. That's useful. Command 1 is opening the light adjustments. Oh, so that would mean Command 2 is color. Pardon me, that's kind of cool. Okay, so let's collapse all of those. So Command 1 opens the light. Command 2 opens color. Command 3 opens effects. All right, that's kind of cool. But still, there's got to be a better way to zoom than just clicking or going Command plus or minus. Yeah, we'll find it one of these days. Anyway, so there's that. We already looked at the search. You also have the filtering capabilities up here. You can filter by your star ratings. You can filter by flagged, picked, and so on. You can also filter just photo or video. I don't have any videos in here, so if I click that, it'll show nothing. You can search your keywords if you've applied any, which cameras these were shot with. Look at how this shows how old these are. EOS 1DS Mark III photos. Locations, if you have those. In fact, let's do this. Let's go back to Sweden. And then under locations, under cameras, we'll see more options. So iPhone, my DJI, no camera details. Which cameras have no details? Oh, okay, that was stitched. These are screenshots. And I have no idea why these have no details on them. Interesting. So you've got those things in there. Let's reset that. There we go. And then locations, all the locations of your photos that it's got. And again, this is all pulling it from the metadata, from the GPS geotagging data that was on there. So it has clearly reverse geotagged that. Excellent. So there's your basics there. All right, so there's just kind of that high-level overview. Import, don't worry about where they go. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. They're magically everywhere. You do your basic edits, they're magically everywhere. Oh, and then you want to share your pictures. We'll do that. We go to share picture, top right up in here, you've got a little share icon next to the cloud icon. Click on that. Save to and send to Facebook. Presumably there's going to be more hooks in here eventually, like send to Twitter and other stuff. But right now we've got send to Facebook or save. If you hit save, very, very few controls. So if you are used to using in Lightroom full size, now Lightroom Classic, the presets for export, right? And I have like a dozen of these things, different sizes, different compressions. Are they TIFF? Are they JPEG? Do they have a watermark or not? What are they sized for? Like I have all these presets. It's gone. You don't have any of that right now. You can still export in these different formats, right? So if I go in here, I can say save as a JPEG or, well, I guess that's it. Original plus the settings. Okay, well, so I don't even have TIFF or, that's interesting. Location, you can choose where it's going to go. And then file size, small, full, or custom. Go to custom, and you can say what the long side is, but not a full. I mean, that's enough, I suppose. But minimal. I mean, we're talking a minimal export dialog in here compared to the full-size Lightroom. So that's something to consider as well. If you're wondering what this photo is, this is a stitch of a panorama shot with the DJI Spark over Stockholm. Kind of cool, right? Okay, so there's that. That was that stuff that I wanted to show you. Now let's talk about, very briefly, the syncing between. So I'm going to fire up Lightroom on the iPhone 10 here. iPhone 10. Wrong button. There we go. This is cool. So look at the narrow. I'm gonna have to readjust my preset because now I've got all this extra taller. Anyway, let's do this. Let's go into the Joshua Tree pictures and let's pinch out of that. Little thumbnails in there. Okay, so there's my Joshua Tree pictures. Now what I'm going to do, because it's getting a little bit tricky here because I don't actually have a preset built for this, but I am going to switch over to my switcher here and I'm going to set, yep, that's me, box 2. I'm going to set that to my demo system. Excellent. And I'm going to resize. I'm going to take this out of full screen and I'm going to resize this window to fit inside of there. So you can see, there we go. So you can see everything. So I can't switch back to me easily. So you're not looking at me right now. Let's go. We're in the Sweden view. Let's go to the grid view over here, and let's just pick a picture. I guess it doesn't really matter what. Actually, no, it does. I'm going to use one of these of the buildings. Where did it go? I knew which picture I wanted before. Come on. There was a building picture that I wanted that showed a nice, good thing to perspective correct. Did I pass it? I must have passed it. And I'm going to flag that picture so we can find it on both sides. Here we go. This is the one I wanted. All right. So this picture right here, I'm going to flag this, mark it as a pick. Over on the other side, if I do a filter by picked, oh, we're looking at the wrong album here. Let's go back out of here into the Sweden Holiday, and we're going to filter by picked, and there we go, picked, there it is. And it looks like we have that picture already showing up. Excellent. So there's the picture that we're working with. Now notice up in the top right of the iOS device, right there that I'm clicking on right there, that little guy right there is a little cloud icon that tells us the current status of the syncing. This is going to be a very important thing to keep an eye on as we go through this. Over on the Mac side, you'll see we've got the little cloud up here in the corner as well. You're going to want to keep an eye on that as we go too. Okay. I'm going to start by just doing a basic adjustment in here. So if I go in here, I open up Light, and I do, let's take the exposure up, let's take the blacks down, and let's take like the saturation up a little bit. I could, oh, wrong way, color, take the saturation up. I could sit here all day long, and as far as I can tell, this isn't going to affect, this is going to sync, not only until I close this. I thought at first I could close this and that would do it. No, you'll see this is not doing anything yet, this little icon up here. I have to actually leave this picture. Now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if I sit here long enough, it'll do it. But as soon as I click on another photo, watch, okay, keep an eye on this guy up here. I'm going to arrow over to another picture, and instantly that guy starts to sync. See that little spinning thing? That is syncing right now. If I click on it, it's going to tell me what the status is, syncing one photo. And if you look over on the other side of your screen, on where the iOS device is, you'll see that check mark, that little cloud still got the check mark. It still says it's in sync. Okay, now that system says it's synced and backed up. If we wait just a little bit, that will eventually change. Oh, and there it is. And that has changed. How cool is that? So that has just updated pretty quick there, right? So that's not too shabby. But now let's get even more crazy. Let's go in here now, and I'm going to choose a different picture. Let's go for, no, I don't want to do this. How do I get out of here? Well, I guess we'll do this picture, right? We're going to do this one. I'm going to do something that doesn't exist on the other system. All right, let's go into lighting. Let's actually do a full reset. Let's reset this picture. Okay, resetting everything. I'm going to go into the light controls and open curves, and let's do a big old curves change. I'm going to do it really, really dramatic, so it's obvious that I've done something in here. Okay, so that picture, I hit done on there. I can close this out or not. And at this point, you look at that little cloud icon and it shows a little plus on it. So there's changes that need to be made that haven't synced. I could wait, or I could tap on that and say force sync. And now it's going to, go figure, force that sync. Hello, is it doing it? Force sync. Oh, there it goes. I guess I missed. So that is forcing it to sync. Over on the desktop side, we are going to just wait and see what happens. Zoom out. Eventually, that is going to change. Now, here's the really interesting thing about this. Remember, we just adjusted curves, which we do not have over here on, oh, it's the wrong picture. I'm not even looking at the right picture. There's the right picture. There it is. And there, ooh, caught it just in time. We do not have curves here. So if we look at this control, none of these adjustments, none of these sliders have been moved, but the curves adjustment is still there. Likewise, I could reset this thing, or I could add adjustments on top of this, but I've kind of really munched it with the curves. So let's do this. Let's go and reset this picture, and I'm going to go into geometry, and I'm going to choose vertical, straightens those out, and then let's go ahead and do some exposure adjustments. Actually, no, yeah, we'll do that, whatever. Do some exposure adjustments, take the blacks down, make it a little bit crunchier, and take the clarity again a little bit, and I'm going to go to saturation. It's kind of washed out. Do that. And at some point over on the right-hand side, let's just close that out. We'll just let that sit there and wait and see what happens. And we can just do that. Yeah, you'll see that go when it goes. And that will eventually sync over and pop up there. So even though you don't have access to all of the tools on both devices, if you make a change on one, it does show up on the other. And it may not be editable, but it is still non-destructive, and you can go in there and change it. So clearly, there are interface and capability mismatches, but this will evolve and they will all come together over time. And we're still waiting for this thing to actually, oh, dog's howling next door. I know what's wrong. I have not left this picture yet. Remember, this is one of those things. And this is not a normal workflow. You're not gonna be sitting here on two devices going back and forth. Normally you go, okay, good, I'm done with this picture. As long as you click away from that picture, now that I've clicked away from it, I can go back to it. You can see, well, you can't see because I took it off, but it is syncing. The desktop machine is syncing. This will eventually sync up and show up over there. Anyway, so that's that. All right, I'm going to take a look at the questions in here, the comments, see if there's anything we want to address, and then we're going to call it a day. Come on, update. Don't make me look good. Update. Let's see what's going on over here. Trevor says, so the photos it will store locally for editing on the run will be in Adobe Small RAW format. Okay, so Adobe has, it's not Small RAW, it's Adobe Smart Preview. Smart Preview. I don't want to click on it. I want to touch it. I just want to let it go. The Smart Preview format, that is what's automatically going to be pulled down, but you can also pull down the RAW. That just finished syncing. Okay, now it decides to not use up all my bandwidth. Just do a little metadata syncing. Okay, this is gonna, I don't want to wait until this thing updates on its own, because I just want to show you that it does work that way, even though it's taking forever. But I want to show you that you can download the RAW file to your mobile device as well, assuming your mobile device supports that, which is most modern phones, I do believe. Oh, come on, just work. I gave up. I'm going to tap on the thing and say, well, not pause syncing. Am I looking at the wrong picture? Is that what I'm doing? No, I don't think so. Well, as soon as I went away and came back, it was there. Yeah, okay, fine. If I click on the little thing, I can say, get this original. And then it downloads that original, and I will have access to that full RAW, full resolution of that image. So then look at that. It's already downloaded. The RAW file is downloaded on there, and we're good to go. So now I can, do like full on. Wow. I got to tell you, this screen on the iPhone 10, it's so good. Like, looking at it, I'm going, Mac. Oh, this is so beautiful. I know you're not seeing what, because you're just, but trust me, it's like really nice. Okay. Was there anything else in here? Trevor says, so you get a full editing capability on the run. Yes, you do. So there you go. So you have that capability. You can do, let me just show you this real quick. If I back out of here and I go to, let's say my Sweden holiday picture, my collection, I want to make sure all of my Sweden holiday pictures, the originals are all here. Oh, these are filtered right now. Let's say no filter. Okay, all of these pictures are here. If I tap on the little 3 dots, I can say store locally, and it says downloading this album requires 1 gigabyte. I have 152 gigs left. So do I want to download? I hit download, and off we go. And now I have all of those original RAW files on my mobile device, whether that's your iPhone or your iPad or whatever it might be. So that's awesome. Michael Schulte says, using Lightroom local version, I get a configuration error, so-called error number 16. Time to time. This error is also reported for Lightroom CC on an Adobe website. Anybody with similar experience? Shane said, no, it's been stable for me. So this video is going to live forever on YouTube. So if you want to, if you're watching this and you have any input on this error number 16, by all means, please add it in the comments and help Michael out. Michael, feel free to repost your comment after the show is over. I will be re-uploading a version of this without that big old time gap in between. So once that's uploaded, feel free to add your own question there, and then anybody who, maybe you can get some help there. And apparently the dogs are barking next door now. So that's it. I think that's it. We're going to wrap it there. I'm going to cancel that because I don't really want to do that. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in today. That was a lot of fun. Sorry about the snafu on the streaming. Good to know that it did what it's supposed to do. It uploaded all the pictures. It just kind of took all my bandwidth. That's that. That's today's show. I hope you enjoyed that. If you enjoyed this, then keep in mind that we'll be doing a lot more of these on specific features. So the first one, I think, is going to be about file management. I think that's an important thing. That is this Thursday. I don't remember when. Anyways, this Thursday at some point, that'll show up at PhotoApps.Expert/live momentarily here shortly after the show. That will show up on there, and that's it. That's all there is to it. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate your attention, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.